This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada.
Hello, and welcome to Canada as I See It. Hello, and welcome to the show. My goodness, what a week it's been. Last week at this time, I was out in Belleville, Ontario, attending my Aunt Bessie's funeral, and it's taken a week, but I finally brought back the snow that we experienced out there. We got a little bit of dusting last night in my area, so there you go. I'm actually I'm recording this the day before, and I'm going to try and make it a unedited show, but I'm looking out to a beautifully sunny day with snow everywhere. So it's kind of like Christmas all over again. And immediately after I said that, this is James from the future, actually, but still before Sunday. Immediately after I said that, I thought, oh my, I didn't tell you about, I ordered some new glasses. I know I'm holding them up to the camera right now, so if you can see them, great. If not, then remember you're listening to an audio podcast. I got two pairs of glasses. First pair I think I've gotten about 10 years or so. So James is looking quite stylish right now. I picked them up yesterday, in fact, and if I do say so myself, I think I look pretty good in them. I've got two pair now, so if you don't recognize me, that's why, because of my new glasses. Okay, so back to the podcast. I would like to thank Heather for introducing the podcast this week. Heather is a friend from university and yet another member of that 2 a.m. club. Thank you so much, Heather. Today is January 12th. And I have a potentially long show again today. Do you like those? You like it when I just ramble and go on for a while? Let me know. So just to give you a couple of points, two birthdays to tell you about. This day in 1886, Art Ross, a Canadian hockey player and executive, was born in Naughton, Ontario. Two questions. Where is Naughton? It's a part of the Greater Sudbury area, just north of Georgian Bay. And two, well, I said he was a hockey player, but what is he known for? His name is on the, Art Ross Trophy, which is awarded to the National Hockey League player who attains the highest individual point total, goals and assists in a season. Note for all of my Leaf fans out there, no Toronto Maple Leaf has ever won the trophy. And we move on now to 1938. William B. Davis, not to be confused with Ann B. Davis, who portrayed Alice, the housekeeper on the television show The Brady Bunch. No, this gentleman, this Canadian actor, is known for portraying the smoking man on the television show The X-Files. He was also a director and a teacher, and he was born in Toronto, Ontario. He turns 86 tomorrow. So we're moving on to the subject of today's podcast, and at the risk of this turning into a civics lesson, I do want to touch on something that is important due to recent events in our country. Now, it's rare that both Canada's and the U.S.'s political systems are in flux at the same time. The U.S. is about to inaugurate a president, and Canada is on the verge of choosing a new leader itself. The U.S. has just been through a year-long election process. I know it really does seem a lot longer than a year, but a year is the official length. But I would like to highlight what is about to happen up here. Now, the U.S. system is quite particularly laid out. Amongst other elections, the U.S. presidential election takes place every 4 years, and that's on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Question, when does Canada have an election for Prime Minister? Well, first off, Canada does not directly elect a Prime Minister. There is no checkbox on the ballot for who you want to be your leader. Canadians are represented by members of Parliament, MPs, and each are elected in geographic constituencies or ridings across the country, including the person who would become the Prime Minister. Now, these ridings are loosely determined by population across the country. The actual formula is enough to cross anyone's eyes. Each political party in Canada internally elects a leader at a leadership convention, and this is generally done just prior to the scheduled beginning of an election. Now, an interesting thing in Canada about a political party, anyone can say that, they're part of a political party, but the official status of a party, one that would get funding from the government, is determined by the number of seats or the number of ridings that each party earns in an election. And if that number is below 12, you're not, quote, officially a party. That happened, actually, a while back for the Conservative Party when they ended up, I believe, it was like with 2 seats. So technically, although they were there, their rights and their funding within the legislature just were greatly cut back. So the type of government that we have in Canada is technically a constitutional monarchy, and that's the reason why the King of the United Kingdom is on our coins and our, well, not yet, I guess. His mother, the Queen, is still on our $20 bill. I've yet to actually see if that's going to change. Canada, though, is a parliamentary democracy. And that means that we essentially are represented in the government by whomever gets the most votes in your constituency or riding. And whatever political party wins the most ridings, the person who is leader of the party becomes the Prime Minister. Now, an interesting thing about this, even if that person does not win the riding that they are running in, they are still Prime Minister. I honestly, off the top of my head, I can't recall if that's ever been a situation, but there it is. Now, another thing interesting about the way Canada works is that the winning party does not have to have a majority of seats or ridings, like 50% or more, in order to rule. In fact, the last time that happened was 10 years ago, in 2015. Sometimes we end up, in this case, with what is called a minority government, and that's when the party with the most seats has less than 50% of the total. Now, this is more likely in our type of government when there are more than 2 primary parties. When this situation arises, the ruling government will make, deals with one or more of the other parties so that the government can essentially get things done. Another way to look at it is that in a minority situation, which is these days more likely than not, the other parties keep the ruling party in check, really. Play nice or we won't. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't always work. Either the leader will see that nothing productive will be able to happen and will resign, as with what happened recently with the current PM, or one of the other parties will introduce what's called a non-confidence motion, and essentially saying, we don't think the government can cut it. And this is put to a vote in Parliament, and if passed by a majority, Parliament is dissolved. It stops, and then an election is called. Now, if the reader, see, now you can tell I'm reading, right? If the leader resigns, then they can go to the Governor General, who is the King's representative in Canada. They will request that they prorogue Parliament. And prorogue means pause. It pauses Parliament so that the party can choose a new leader. And then that person will become Prime Minister. No election required. The pause in Parliament is basically someone calling time, once a new leader is chosen. And at the time of me recording this, in fact, yesterday, I believe, I found out that it will be no sooner than March the 8th. And then someone yells, "Game on!" and Parliament resumes. This situation, well, rarely lasts more than a few weeks, maybe a couple of months total, as the opposition parties will still say that they do not have confidence in the government, and an election will likely be called by request of the sitting Prime Minister. Judging by the timetable at hand now, I figure that we'll likely have an election before the end of June. Now, in a perfect world, if none of that happens, the government's required to have an election no more than 5 years past the previous one. There's also no set date, as in the U.S. This can really get strategic in a way, because right now, well, it's rare to have an election in the winter, as really it would make it difficult for those in remote areas, like not in Ontario, to get out to vote due to all the snow we have up here, eh? As I noted before, even the strategic calls, well, they'll look for the nice weather, really. Next question. When an election is called, how long does it last? Well, once it's an inevitability, the government general... Okay, I'm going to back up. I'm not going to edit, but I will start again. Once it's an inevitability... Gosh, those words. The Governor General of Canada, on request of the Prime Minister, will issue a proclamation on behalf of His Majesty the King under the Great Seal of Canada to dissolve Parliament. And most of the time, the Governor General can always say, "Yeah, I don't think so." And then the Prime Minister will then either resign or work to form an alliance with the opposition parties to keep the government going. Now, dissolution of Parliament, just stopping it down, means that everything that was happening at the time, debates, bills, whatever is going on, it ends. And it doesn't continue. If someone wants to reintroduce a bill, well, they really have to start from scratch. Now, there's another thing here that's going to be really striking is the election cycle. This is actually at the discretion of the Governor General and will last at minimum 36 days and no more than 50 days, less than 2 months. And that's in stark contrast to the U.S. system, which, as I said, it lasts officially 1 year. So, let's say an election happens, MPs are elected, and the leader of the party with the most seats becomes Prime Minister. What is the makeup of the government that they are Prime Minister of? Well, as I said, Canada is a constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy. It's founded on the rule of law, of rights and freedoms, and the government acts in the name of the Crown the king, but gets its authority from the Canadian people. Now, Canada's parliamentary system, it comes down from the British or the Westminster tradition. Parliament consists of the Crown, the Senate, the House of Commons, and all the laws that are voted on are enacted once they are agreed to by all three parts. Now, Canada is a federal state, and the responsibility for making those laws is shared amongst the one federal, the 10 provincial, and the 3 territorial governments. So in the situation that we have coming up, we're, as I said, right now, in the near future, before March the 8th, we're not going to have an election, but we will choose a new leader, and we'll likely have an election coming up, I expect, really before the beginning of summer. When an election happens, who is getting elected? Well, we have the Prime Minister, who will likely have their own seat. We have his cabinet, which are made up by their choice of the people who have earned a seat in Parliament. And we also have the what's called the lower chamber, of some of which those people are in the cabinet, but the remainder, total of 338 members, are elected to represent the people. The one part of Canada's ruling level, what's called the upper chamber, are senators. And in the U.S., these senators are elected. But in Canada, the senators, there are 105 of them, as opposed to 338 members in the House of Commons, or the lower chamber. These 105 senators are appointed by the Governor General to represent regions of the country. And that appointment is basically for life. So when you're a senator, you're a senator. So hopefully I haven't bored you to tears. If you're still listening at this point, thank you. I know sometimes I do get to reading, and I try and make it as personal as possible, but then there are other times, there's just a lot of information out there, and I want to let you know, because this is part of my Canada, and if you're Canadian, it's part of your Canada, and I believe it's really, really important for us to understand how our system works up here. So overall, really, with what I've mentioned, that is what we have to look forward to over the next 5 months. It'll definitely be interesting. And as I said, the most important thing you can do is exercise your right to vote. The party you wish to govern, the person you vote for, may not be the victor, but really, that's the situation in a democratic process. I am actually starting to run low on voices for the introduction of the podcast. If you like what you've heard today, even if you don't like what you've heard today, let me know, please. Contact me as I see it at warpole.ca. Ask questions. Look for clarifications, or just correct me on something. Let me know. Have I, as I said, am I blowing smoke, or is this something that you enjoy listening to? I know I got a little more set today, a little maybe less of an opinion and more of facts, but as I said, this is important. Please, I would like, as I said, I would like to get more voices. Let me know. Email me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. That's WHORPOLE.ca. WARPOLE.ca, and please say, "This podcast is produced by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada." That would be wonderful, and I'll mention your name. Make it your recording. Like, if there's something you want to add into it or something like that, please feel free. I can't guarantee that I will have it in there, but I'll definitely let everyone know who you are. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I will talk to you again next week. And that's a part of Canada as I see it. It is written and produced by me, James Warpole, and brought to life by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada. Our theme song is Night Owls by Braden Deal. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Join us every Sunday for another episode of Canada as I See It.